Eleanor Henderson had lost everything: her husband, her savings, her sense of purpose. But when life crumbled, she found strength in the one place she'd always felt at home: her kitchen. From grief and flour, she rebuilt her life one pie at a time. This is the story of Eleanor's table, where hope was baked fresh every morning. Chapter 1: The Girl Who Watched the Sky. Eleanor May Henderson was born in 1942 in a small clapboard house that seemed to cling to the red dirt of rural Oklahoma. Her world was defined by the vast, unforgiving sky above and the demanding earth below. The whispers of the Dust Bowl still haunted the older folks in her town, a constant reminder that the land could give, but it could also take away with a sudden, cruel breath. Her father, a man hardened by lean years and calloused by labor, saw the world in terms of planting seasons and harvest yields. Her mother, whose hands were never still, transformed their meager produce into a life, filling the small house with the scent of baking bread, simmering preserves, and the quiet hum of resilience. Eleanor, however, was a dreamer. While her hands did their share of the work, shelling peas on the porch swing, pulling weeds from the stubborn vegetable patch, feeding the clucking chickens, her eyes were always drawn upward. The nearby Tinker Air Force Base was a hive of activity during the war years and beyond. The silver glint of a B-29 bomber or the roar of a new jet engine was, to her, a promise that the world was bigger than their dusty patch of land, that there were other lives to be lived, places to go where the horizon didn't just end in another field of wheat. "A girl's place isn't in the sky, Ellie Mae," her father would say, not unkindly, but with the unshakable certainty of his generation. "It's right here, with her feet on the ground." Her mother understood a little better. She saw the fire in her daughter's eyes. While she taught Eleanor the essential arts of the kitchen, how to know when the bread was perfectly proved, the secret to a flaky pie crust was ice-cold butter, and how a dash of cinnamon could elevate a simple apple, she also nurtured her spirit. "Your father's right, your feet belong on the ground," she'd say, wiping a smudge of flour from Eleanor's cheek. "But that doesn't mean your heart can't fly." And so Eleanor's heart flew. She devoured books from the town's tiny library, stories of female adventurers, pilots like Amelia Earhart, and scientists like Marie Curie. She excelled in school, particularly in math and science, subjects that felt like the secret language of the universe. She dreamed of college, of engineering, of designing the very planes that streaked across her blue Oklahoma sky. It was a silent, fiercely guarded dream, a seed planted in the unlikely soil of her life. Chapter 2: A Different Landing. Life, as it often does, had a different flight plan. In the summer of 1960, at a town dance held in the Grange Hall, she met Arthur Vance. He wasn't a pilot, but an Army engineer, home on leave. He was quiet, steady, and had kind eyes that saw past the dreamer and noticed the smart, capable young woman. He didn't talk about the sky. He talked about building bridges, about creating things that lasted, things that connected people. He was captivated by her sharp mind and her surprising wit. She was drawn to his calm strength, the way he made her feel both safe and seen. When he was stationed in California, he wrote to her every week. His letters weren't filled with soaring poetry, but with dependable, solid prose about his work, his hopes for the future, and increasingly how she was at the center of those hopes. The dream of college and engineering began to feel distant, a whisper from another life. The path of marriage, of building a family with this good man, felt real, tangible, and full of its own quiet promise. She chose Arthur. She chose love. They were married in the spring of 1961. Eleanor packed her life into 2 suitcases and took a train to California, leaving the red dirt and the wide skies of Oklahoma behind. her mother pressed a worn, handwritten recipe book into her hands at the station. "This is your grounding, Ellie Mae," her mother whispered, her hug tight. "Wherever you go, you'll know how to make a home." And she did. Eleanor poured all the energy and intelligence she had once aimed at aerodynamics into the art of homemaking. She and Arthur moved from base to base, from California to Texas to Germany and back again. With each move, Eleanor was the engineer of their life. She could set up a new home in a week, find the best schools for their 2 children, Michael and Sarah, and build a community out of strangers. Her kitchen became the heart of every house they lived in. The scent of her apple pies, made with her mother's recipe, was the smell of home for her children, a constant in their transient military life. Her old dreams weren't dead, but they were sleeping. Sometimes, when a jet flew overhead, she'd pause, a dishcloth in her hands, and watch until it was a speck in the distance. A faint pang of "what if" would stir. But then the timer on the oven would buzz, or a child would call her name, and she would turn back to the life that she had built, a life that was full and good. She had her feet on the ground, and for many years it was more than enough. Chapter 3. The Long, Quiet Years. Arthur retired from the Army after 25 years of service, and they settled in a small, comfortable house in a quiet suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina. It was the first home they had owned for more than a few years. Eleanor planted a sprawling garden full of tomatoes, zucchini, and herbs. Arthur took up woodworking in the garage. They found a rhythm, a peaceful cadence to their days. The children grew up and built lives of their own. Michael became a lawyer in Charlotte, and Sarah a teacher in the same town they lived in. Grandchildren arrived, filling the house once more with laughter and the pitter-patter of small feet. Eleanor was Grandma. It was a role she cherished. Her home was the hub for every holiday, every celebration. Her Thanksgiving dinners were legendary, her Christmas cookies a treasured tradition. The recipe book her mother had given her was now splattered with the evidence of a well-lived life. Its pages were soft and worn, its instructions of familiar comfort. It was her history, her connection to the woman who taught her that a heart could fly even if its body stayed put. Chapter 4. The Unraveling. The first sign of trouble came in a letter. It was from the investment firm that managed Arthur's pension and their life savings. The language was dense, full of jargon and apologies, but the meaning was brutally clear. A series of market downturns and high-risk investments made by a fund manager she'd never met had decimated their nest egg. Eleanor sat at her kitchen table, the same table where she had helped her children with homework and snapped green beans with Arthur, and read the letter 3 times. It didn't seem real. Arthur had been so careful, so meticulous. He had planned for her to be secure, to never have to worry. A call to her son Michael confirmed her fears. He spent hours on the phone with the firm, his voice growing tighter and angrier. "It's bad, Mom," he said finally, his lawyerly composure gone. "It's really bad. Most of it is gone." The world tilted on its axis. The secure ground she had stood on for her entire adult life crumbled into dust. The house, their home, had a mortgage. There were property taxes, insurance, the rising cost of utilities. The small Social Security check she received wouldn't be enough to cover it all. Her children immediately offered to help her. Michael wanted to pay her mortgage. Sarah wanted her to move in with her family. Eleanor was fiercely proud and deeply private. She had spent her life being the provider, the caregiver, the one people leaned on. The thought of becoming a financial burden on her children, who had their own mortgages and college funds to worry about, was a special kind of agony. "I'll be fine," she insisted, her voice betraying a tremor she couldn't hide. "I just need to figure things out."
But as the weeks turned into months, the figuring things out led only to dead ends. She was 70 years old. Her resume consisted of army wife and mother. Who would hire her? To do what? Be a greeter at a big box store? The thought made her stomach clench with a mixture of fear and humiliation. For the first time since Arthur's death, a profound and terrifying loneliness set in. This wasn't grief. This was despair. She felt invisible, obsolete, a relic from a bygone era with no place in the modern world. Chapter 5. The Flower-Dusted Revelation. One bleak Tuesday afternoon, unable to face the mounting pile of bills on her desk, Eleanor found herself in the attic. She was looking for old photo albums, for a